What Monday morning, what a weekend. Kicked off with Boomer and Geo live. I still smell like ranch dressing from Friday night, and I'm not kidding. It somehow has gotten into my pores and into my skin, and no shower or no soap or no shampoo or no fragrance can get this stench of ranch dressing off of me. We had a huge sports weekend. Mets and Yankees, of course. We now know when the Knicks will be starting their playoff series, and a very interesting Masters, even though John Rahm pulled away. Some of the things that happened during this, including how CBS treated the LIV guys, very, very fascinating. Good morning, Boomer. Have we recovered from Friday night or what?
I am alive. Yes, I am. I mean, I have to tell you, I woke up Saturday morning, I felt like Bruce Smith hit me.
Yeah.
That's what I felt like.
Well.
Look, it was a great night Friday night. I want to say thank you to everybody who showed up. I got a chance to mingle a little bit beforehand because I'm a mingler. You're not.
A mingler, yes.
You're not a mingler. I am. So I wanted to make sure I went out there.
I was mingling at the end of the show.
I don't know what you were doing at the end of the show because I was out of there.
Right.
But I have to say that was fun. That was a lot of fun. I give you guys a lot of credit. You guys kept telling me this is going to be great. This is going to be great. And, you were wondering whether or not I was going to be all in. I was all in. This is one of those daddy's coming in hot nights, and I was coming in hot without a question. I had a great time.
Yes.
I want to thank my friend Phil Sims, who came out like a double order of Don Rickles.
Oh, yeah.
I want to thank Joe Douglas for coming up there and playing to the crowd and having a lot of fun. And I just want to say thanks to Adam and the Metal Hawks. They were great. And I don't know, just everybody who put the thing together. Who would have thought that it would have turned out as rambunctious as it did? So... that's all I know. Yeah, Booba's dead.
Yes, that's right.
It all started. See, this is where it all started.
Right.
It all started when you and I met at the Leatherman.
Yeah.
Over on Christopher Street, so I could get you your outfit.
That is correct. Yes. So I had gone shopping after the show, and I picked out a couple of outfits that I thought would be good, and then all of a sudden, as I'm heading back to my car, you call me and say, hey, I'm at the Leatherman down on Christopher Street. What size pants are you again? And I said, well, 33 or 34. Then I hear someone in the background go, oh, we should go with 34 because the leather is a little tight. So I said, okay. I said, listen, I'm still in the city. You want me to meet you there? We meet at the Leatherman, and yes, they have very, very fine leather goods. They also have lots of sex toys at this place downstairs. So we went downstairs. I tried on some boots in the adjacent to some very, very interesting shaped things that were on the wall, and then videos that were playing as well.
Well, whatever. But the thing is that the way we found it is I Googled leather products in New York City.
That's right.
And they were a 5-star number one.
Yeah,
so I said, I'm taking my boy to a 5-star number one. Let's go.
5-star number one. And they were great in there.
They were a lot of fun. They were a lot of fun. And that's where it all started because that's what I knew. I knew you were going to be all in anyway, but
yeah.
That's when I knew that it was going to be like, this is going to get out of control. And then, of course, it's Good Friday, so it's Good Friday.
Sure, certainly.
So I'm thinking, the Holland Tunnel's a nightmare most nights between the hours of 4 and 6 o'clock.
Sure, yeah.
It's usually like 3:30 to 6:30.
Right.
And so you got to get through the Holland Tunnel to get to Jersey City.
Right.
So I'm thinking, I'm going to give myself a little time just in case.
Yeah.
But since it was Good Friday, it was very light traffic. And I literally made it from downtown here to Jersey City within like 15 minutes.
Yeah, I was shocked how early you were because I figured you'd be there about 6:30 or something like that. You showed up there at 5:30. I was like, damn.
That's because the Holland Tunnel was wide open because it was Good Friday.
That's right.
And all I can tell you is that we started early. We started often. I was in a great mood.
And you left early.
Yes, I was in a great mood. And listen, I remember Spike looks at me and goes, how you doing? I said, I'm leaving. Good night. See you.
Yeah, I wasn't even sure what was happening there towards the end because I didn't know where you went or where you were. I just knew I had to finish the show somehow.
That's why we're partners.
Yeah, so I ended up finishing the show, and that was that. And then you were gone, and then we did the VIP stuff at the end and the pictures, and that was that.
You know what I remember most out of this whole thing was I go over to Al sitting on the couch over there, or that chair, and my feet are slipping out from underneath me because of the ranch
Yeah,
dressing and everything.
yeah.
And all I could see is Al's terrified face, just looking at me like, what is he going to do to me?
Yeah. Well,
Al, that was my lasting impression of Friday night, was your face, just horrified. And you had this sense of fear in your face. I wasn't going to hurt you.
Yeah, I don't recall that exactly, but
That's what
I
I
do recall
remember.
being, I did land on the stage at some point with you on top of me, and we landed on Adam and the Metalhawks' foot pedals for the guitars. And the guy's like, "You're on my foot pedals."
you're right.
Yeah. So hey, look, man, we're all in,
yeah.
man, but I had to pay for it this weekend, boy.
Yeah,
God.
and by the way, I had all that leather was covered in ranch, and I didn't know what to do with it, so I gave it to the promotions team in a bag, and I said, "Could you please take care of this? Because please somebody get this back to the radio station."
Right.
So I don't know who's got it, where it is, but all that leather, ranch covered leather. And here's the Ranch on Schwartz situation with Joe Douglas pouring.
I love the fact that Joe Douglas did that.
Yeah. See, look at all the ranch all over my leather pants. See,
great. Yeah, I know.
And poor Joe Douglas has got all over him, too.
Yeah, I know. He probably smells a little bit like ranch. I mean, we all do, man.
Yeah. So anyway, somewhere in this building or some promotion's home, that ranch-soaked leather I don't know where it is, and hopefully I can get it back because a lot of it's expensive real leather, you know what I'm saying?
Right. So I do have to say that, there could be some, compromising photos out there. Whatever, I don't know.
Well, it happened.
I had a great time. It all happened,
right.
And that's all I care about. And it was, I don't think Spike expected it to go this way, but it turned out to be a great thing because, he called me the next morning and he goes, "I was just glad to see that you left me a message because that meant you were alive." I said, "Yes." I said, I'm sure I put you in a very difficult position, but, that's what happens when you deal with hammered stars. I felt like we were like, what'd you say, an 80s hairband that went in there and just wrecked the place.
Well, basically, yes. That's what I felt like leaving, covered in ranch, and the ranch was all over the stage, and then you had left. It was just like it was like Motley Crue destroying the hotel room.
Right.
Just like turning everything over and setting it on fire, and then just leaving in an Uber. Like, see ya. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate it.
Right.
But yeah, the crowd seemed to love it. The sponsors seemed to love it. There's the Winners Brothers penalty box and the C4. I can see in the video right now. And there's Zoo and Gallo. So by the way, Phil Simms came out and was awesome as they're showing that video. So Zoo and Gallo are going to do a show together out of this whole thing, which was awesome. So they will both do an overnight show
together.
They're going to do a show together. So
is one going to be the producer, or are they going to be co-hosts and have their own producer?
No, they're going to be co-hosts and then have their own producers. So Zoo had actually won the puzzle challenge. And then we had given Gallo a chance to also get a show chugging against Eddie. Eddie destroyed Gallo in the chug challenge, but then Spike said, "Hey, for both your guys' efforts, we're going to put you both on together on an overnight." So that was very, very nice. They were excited about that because I know the two of them been wanting to get on the air. So those guys were great. CeeLo was great. It was just, it was tremendous. But I do still smell like ranch.
Right.
Yes.
And by the way, congratulations to CeeLo and his Quinnipiac Bobcats.
Oh, yeah.
Who had an amazing win against the University of Minnesota on Saturday night for the national championship men's hockey.
That's correct.
And we're going to have his coach on somewhere after 9:30, I think, this morning, Al. Rand Pecknold, who basically asked the ESPN reporter for a hug because he was so emotional after this game. So hopefully the emotions have calmed down and he can reflect on what was just an incredible season for them. But that game, the fact that they were down 2-0 in the middle of the second period against the best team that's loaded with NHL all-star talent.
Sure.
And they came back and they won 10 seconds into overtime. The place exploded. And then I saw on Instagram all the Quinnipiac place, all the students at Quinnipiac and everything, and back on campus and everything, having just a great old time. So we'll get a chance to talk to him this morning.
Yeah.
Woo! Well, I was saying all of that, man. There was a ton of sports, and you're right. CBS did treat the LIV golfers differently.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And to me, the biggest thing was Phil Mickelson. Now, just imagine. So Phil Mickelson at, 52, 53 years
52.
old? 52 years old. He's the oldest golfer to finish in the top 5 in the history of the Masters, and he ended up finishing a tie for second with Brooks Koepka. And he shoots a 65 on Sunday. If this were pre-LIV golf, just think that LIV golf had never happened, that interview with Alan Shipnuck had never happened, and Phil was doing this, Jim Nantz and that CBS crew, everybody would have been all over it. Every shot. Hanging on this is unbelievable. This would have been akin to what we saw in 2019 with Tiger. Not as big, but close to it. But because of LIV and the controversy and everything, it was sort of like, well, here comes Phil. Oh, nice final round for Phil. He's played great here, and is in the clubhouse with a 65.
You have to remember, though, unfortunately for Phil Mickelson, he's the biggest perceived villain in this whole thing. You could say Greg Norman, but he wasn't there. He's not playing anymore.
Sure.
And Phil gave that interview and everything else. Phil was not there last year. Phil at the Champions Dinner this year, supposedly didn't say much and was very quiet. He's in all black. He's got those glasses on and everything else. And I wasn't rooting for him, I have to tell you that, but it was nice to see that he was able to finish the way he did, and I am a Brooks Koepka fan. I didn't think he was going to play as well as he did, but the conditions weren't great the first couple of days, or the second day actually, and the fact that they had to play 30 holes of golf yesterday was interesting, and the fact that you have a 52-year-old guy who played just as much golf as everybody else. Got all the way up there to tie with second place with Brooks Koepka. So the LIV golfers did show well, but I totally understand why they downplay those guys, because those guys have tried to ruin the PGA Tour. Now, again, the Masters isn't part of the PGA Tour, but they are partners in a lot of different things, and their golfers play. And, I'm sure Monahan was there with Fred Ridley, the chairman of Augusta National, and CBS is in a weird spot, and NBC will be in a weird spot for the U.S. Open, and ABC will be in a weird, ESPN will be in a weird spot for the Open Championship, because they'll have to deal with the same kind of stuff.
Yeah, but it's not less of a story because Phil went to LIV. It's more of a story, and that's what I have a problem with. Is you might disagree with the decision, or CBS doesn't have or has an issue with what Phil did, or the LIV guys did, or Jim Nantz, or whoever.
No, hold on. You got to remember that CBS has a contract with the PGA Tour.
Fine, but
they tried to torpedo that.
But the fact of the matter is that Phil Mickelson doing what he did yesterday, I mean, journalistically, that needs to be treated as a huge thing. It just has to be. I mean, to me, you can't have your personal or business feelings going into the broadcast like that. That was a huge deal. Think about, Scotty Scheffler barely made any noise, got down to 4 under, then bogeyed back-to-back holes. He ended up somewhere in that par 3 16 and just blew it. And then you think about Rory. I mean, Rory, non-factor. Justin Thomas doesn't even make the cut. All these great golfers.
Jordan Spieth was a factor. Colin Morikawa was a factor. Cameron Young was a factor.
But my point is that all these top golfers, like Rory's been number one up there with Scheffler and Rahm. JT, who had won the PGA last year. All these guys were not a factor. And here is Phil Mickelson at 52 shooting a 65 in windy conditions on Sunday at the Masters, and it was treated like an oh-by-the-way situation.
And played 30 holes, by the way.
I mean, that to me is nuts.
Yeah, remember, he had to resume his round just like everybody else did.
I know.
And I'll tell you what, Tiger Woods, man. Oh,
yeah, no,
boy.
it's too bad. Yeah.
I mean, he had that damn plantar fasciitis. At least that's what he's, saying.
Yeah.
But he that with the weather and everything else, he just looked awful.
Yeah, I know. And it just
he looked
limping
like
around.
He wasn't even ready for the senior tour.
I know. It's a shame, and it just deteriorates as time goes on, and he ends up making the cut, but then shortly after that with the weather, and I'm sure he was just in so much pain he couldn't continue. I'm sure he really wanted to finish. He was probably devastated that he couldn't.
But his pain was his plantar fasciitis, which
right.
I know on a golf course like that
just
is
brutal.
a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pain in the heel, really.
Sure.
But
yes.
it does hurt. But I think you're right. Your sense about the level of the story, especially with Phil Mickelson, maybe not so much Brooks Koepka, because, he's obviously a finely tuned athlete, as you can see, and there's a reason why. I used to really, really love that guy. But, I understand it, though, because the PGA and CBS, the PGA and the NBC, PGA and ESPN are all in bed together.
Yeah.
And essentially LIV is trying to, undercut all of that. And the interesting thing is that all these players went to LIV for one simple reason. Okay? Make more money and play less.
Yeah.
That was it.
Well, and guaranteed money up front, too.
Well,
It
yeah,
was a
but
huge,
make
huge part of
more
it.
and play less.
Right, yeah.
So there's not going to be ever a détente between PGA and LIV. That's never going to happen.
I just had, to me, my whole thing was, if I would have loved to see how they would have treated this if Phil was in the final grouping, because that's one thing too. Because as he's finishing his round, there's still like 7 holes to go with the leaders at that point, meaning the final grouping in Rahm and Koepka. So if Phil had been in that final grouping doing what he did, there's no way they could have treated it like an oh, by the way. But they were able to do that because Phil was in the clubhouse, 7 or 8 holes prior to those other guys coming in. So they could kind of like slough it away and pretend like it wasn't happening. And it really didn't matter in the end because Rahm just sort of took off and did not melt in any way. So it was fascinating. And the way they Phil with the dark glasses and the black the whole weekend and didn't talk, and he's all of a sudden he's this heel turn villain situation. It was crazy.
Well, maybe, that's also maybe what he needed for his golf game.
Yeah.
Maybe he needed something like this to really bear down and focus and not get caught up in the fans and all that other. One of the things about him is that he has always been so popular with the golf fan.
Sure.
And he's always high-fiving and thumbs-upping and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And now, all of a sudden, he doesn't do that.
I know.
You know why? Because he's just trying to lay low and just trying to get through it and just concentrate on his golf. And look what happened.
Yeah, look what happened. Yes,
his putter was hot yesterday, and you can't say enough about the performance. I mean, he is 52 years old.
Yeah.
And he had to go through the rain and the wind and everything else.
He made history
on
52
Saturday, yes.
in these conditions. I mean, the oldest ever to finish in the top 5.
And it's amazing that we're talking more about Phil than we are John Rahm.
Well, yeah, I know. And John Rahm, who I said I didn't have a good reason not to like John Rahm, but he was never one of my favorites. But I do like him a lot more now. I mean, watching him grind through this and play as well as he did, and he make the joke at the end about how Zach Ertz, his buddy out in Arizona, texted him that first green looked like a cakewalk, and then he 4-putted to start the tournament, and that was a great laugh. So, now I have more of an appreciation for him and what an amazing job he did over this very, very weird up and down, stop and start, cold, windy weekend at Augusta. So, and you had it was Seve Ballesteros' birthday, and you had Jose Maria Olazabal there hugging him, and all the
Spaniards.
Yes, all the Spaniards were loving it. So it was entertaining to me, very, very entertaining. Even though John Rahm sort of ran away with it in the end. All right, Boomer and Gio on the Fan at CBS Sports Network. Jerry joins us. He's going to break down everything for you that happened over the weekend, and yes.